Hi, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff session for this year's fair. Masa Israel Journey is a proud partner of Hillel International, and we're excited to be starting off your journey today. Just a little bit about Masa. Masa Israel Journey is the global leader in immersive experiences for young Jews around the world for programs lasting 4 to 12 months, including study, volunteer, and career development programs. Today, we're going to talk specifically about all your options for a gap in between high school and college. Every year, we accompany thousands of young Jews from all around the world for an in-depth and authentic experience in Israel. You or your children or you yourselves will be growing personally and professionally and be fully immersed into Israeli society. My name is Gali. I'm Director of Partnerships at Masa Israel Journey. I'm also supposed to remind you that you can turn on closed captioning on the bottom right part of your bar at the bottom. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce our Director of Gap Recruitment for Masa Israel Journey, Sheryl Korelitz. So without further ado, Sheryl and our Masa Gap presentation.
Thank you so much. Now I just want to make sure that this all goes well. So hopefully everyone can see this, and I will get started. So the first thing I want to do is to tell everyone about a very important event that's coming up. You'll all want to know about it if you're at all interested in Gap Year in Israel. It is the annual Masa Gap Year Fair. It's a virtual event. It's going to be Sunday, November 14th from 12 to 2 Eastern Time. And if you are at all interested in making your gap year happen, it is pretty essential because you'll get to meet with all the program organizers who oversee programs in Israel. So I hope you will put this on your calendar. I have put the link for registration in the chat, and the event is absolutely free, but registration is required. So I hope you'll do that after today's webinar. So let's get started. Just to give you a guideline, we do have 45 minutes together today, but I'm just going to present for about 15 minutes to leave plenty of time for Q&A afterwards so you can get your questions answered. So like Gali said, I am Sheryl Korelitz. I'm the Director of Gap Year Recruitment for North America for Masa. And just to give you a little bit of background, for many years, I was the Director of College Guidance at a Jewish high school where I worked with students and their families in making post-high school decisions. So I'm a huge lover of Gap, and I would like you to consider me a resource on Gap Years in Israel and Masa Gap Year specifically as well. And I hope you'll reach out after today's presentation. And any questions you have, I'm so happy to answer them and to help you make this decision. So at the end of the program, I will put this contact information in the chat as well, so you'll know how to reach me at any time. So where I want to start is with why Gap Year. The reason I start here is because Gap Year is not an assumed part of the educational journey for American kids. It's not. You may know people who've done Gap Year or family friends or whoever it is, and you may have heard great things, but you also may have heard things that maybe make you think it isn't the best choice. So one of the things I want to do is to talk about all of the benefits and great things about Gap Year so that you get information that you really need to help you make this decision, which I think is a once-in-a-lifetime choice for you. I want to give you the numbers because people are very surprised to know how many people usually do Gap Year. So in 2019, that's the pre-COVID year that we can look at. It's 1.8% of students who deferred their freshman year of college to take a gap year. So that number is very small, but believe it or not, that number was rising, had been rising over the past 10 years, really. And then in 2020, you see this huge increase. And that's, of course, because of COVID, because people did not want to start their freshman year of college on Zoom. They wanted an experience. So we saw this huge jump. And what that has done is it has brought the conversation about Gap Year really to the fore. And there's so much that positive that is coming out about Gap Year. And I don't think there's any turning back now. It's not the best kept secret anymore that it used to be. And I think that you're going to hear that you're part of a trend if you do decide to take this choice. So I put Harvard's gap participation here for a couple reasons. One is Harvard is sort of an example of a school that had a lot of gap year participation. So in 2019, you saw that 3% of the freshman class deferred. For gap year, which seems small, but is still larger than the rest of the country. Last year, they had this crazy amount of 20% of their freshman class deferring. So the interesting thing about Harvard is that Harvard, along with many of the more competitive and selective colleges and universities, have embraced gap year. It's very easy to defer from those schools because they have seen the benefits and what it does for students who return to campus after gap year. Many of those schools have started creating their own gap year programs. For instance, Dartmouth, Princeton, Tufts, American University, Duke, they all have their own gap year programs. I think that's going to become more a trend also. And so that's something you don't have to worry about. Universities are very happy to bring you in and to give you that opportunity to defer. I see that I have frozen up a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's okay. We're better. Okay, I will continue. And then here is the number for Masa. Our gap year participation was up 40% last year. The interesting thing to note is that Israel was the main international destination for gap year last year because almost every single country was closed. The reason that students were able to come to Israel was because of Masa. We created a special Masa fellow visa, which allowed you to enter the country when nobody else could get in. So Masa brought almost 10,000 fellows for the year, including 1,200 students who got to do their gap year specifically in Israel, which was amazing. And one thing I also want to let you know is that this year our numbers are not down. We're holding our 2020 numbers for gap participation, which tells you that word of mouth is out there and that the trend is growing. So what are some of these benefits that I want to talk about for gap year? First of all, there's life skills. This is something that you're going to develop wherever you go in the world once you get out there living as an independent person, but it's a really wonderful opportunity to do it with a group of friends together, also with amazing resources to help you get through it. So we're talking about everything from doing laundry to using public transportation, shopping, cooking for yourself, taking care of an apartment, all of those things that are going to apply when you get to college. Also developing financial literacy, time management is huge. These are things that apply to your life going forward, no matter where you go. And then there's also the social life skills that you're going to get. For instance, learning to live with roommates, developing an entirely new cohort of friends, problem solving through collaboration and communication. So these are things that are obviously skills that you're going to want to develop. And I put here this statistic that according to the Princeton Review, the number one reason students drop out of college is for a lack of non-academic skills. People are very often surprised by that. They always think that it's the academics that are going to get you down, but it's not. And there's a huge transition when you get to college, and it's something that you should be aware of. And gap year will definitely help you when you get to campus. You will definitely be ahead of the curve for your peers who did not take a gap year. College focus, this is very important. People are also surprised to learn that students who take a gap year tend to have higher GPAs than their peers who did not when they get to campus. Also, they finish in 4 years, which if you think that everyone is finishing college in 4 years, that is actually not the norm. On average, over 50% of American college students take 6 years or longer to finish college. Gap year students are taking less time. What happens is you get to college and you're just motivated, you're engaged, you've had real life experience, you had time to breathe, and it makes all the difference. And then in terms of picking a major or a career, makes a huge difference in being able to focus when you get to campus. Over 80% of gap year participants said that their gap year really helped them choose their major or career path. And we're talking about you having real life opportunities where you get to figure out what you're good at, you volunteer, you intern, you decide what you like, and it makes a difference also, as opposed to just being in a classroom to make those decisions. It's about resume building, which sounds crazy because you're just graduating high school. How is this going to build to apply to resume building? But it does. Corporations, businesses love to see global experiences, and this is an incredibly global experience where you're going to be doing real problem solving in a foreign country. And this is one of the most interesting statistics that I do like to share. It's actually from a new 2020 Gap Year Association survey. And over a third, 35% of gap year participants chose to take a gap year. The main reason was because of burnout. I think any high school students here, their guardians, their parents understand what we're talking about. We're talking about GPAs, SATs, ACTs, extracurriculars, the college application process. You know what that's about. And having this year to flex some different muscles, have different experience, it really makes a difference in getting to campus and being refreshed and ready to go. And finally, there's that piece of this experience that people talk about, that it's all this growth. I call it personal development. It's hard to put your finger on exactly one thing that's going on here. It's developing self-awareness, maturity, confidence, self-reliance, independence, all of those things. It's not any one experience that leads to that. It's the entire year and everything that you're going to be going through. And I have this really interesting quote that I want to share with you that's very new. It's from an article that appeared in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago. It's from Lynn Pasquarella, who's the president of the Association of American Colleges and Universities. She's specifically working in the university space. And she was talking about the past 2 years of high school students having to endure COVID and what that's done to their learning curve, to their confidence, to anxiety levels. And she was talking also about how people are feeling that they're not having the skills they need to get to college, real life skills. And she said that if you are in the, you have the financial wherewithal to take a gap year, she suggests that everyone who does take the year off and serve others, go and find out what it's like to live a different life. And she says, take that gap year. And that's a huge development to hear from someone who's working in the university space. And then there's the Jewish piece. You're Jewish kids, you're going to Israel. Developing your Jewish identity is a very important part of this year. And I can tell you that no matter what program you go on, there is not one program that's going to tell you how to live a Jewish life. They're not going to tell you how to feel about Judaism. They're not going to tell you what your opinion of Israel should be. They're not going to do any of that. This is going to be about you having your own personal Jewish journey. You're going to be with your Jewish peers from all over the world, coming with different points of view. You're going to have important conversations, being exposed to Israel on the ground. And so you are going to see things for yourself, and you're going to take ownership of your Judaism. And when you get to campus, I guarantee that you're going to feel very comfortable in your Jewish skin in ways that students who don't have this experience, they are not going to be able to. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's going to change your life. And that's a really important part of making this decision. Well, so what is Masa? Gali told you just briefly what it is, and I will go over that for you. So Masa, as we said, is an organization that brings young Jews from around the world, ages 16 through 35, to have long-term experiences in Israel. So these are experiences that are 4 months or longer. We do not make the programs, we oversee them, we approve them, we offer them to you, so you're guaranteed that they are at a level you can be comfortable with. There are over 100 programs. There are about 20 programs for gap year for North Americans. And so we also provide funding. That's another piece of this. If you're going on one of our gap years, you will have the opportunity to get funding in the form of universal grants or need-based scholarships. And we also offer programming throughout the year in Israel, in addition to the programming that you're going to be getting through your regular program that you're going on. I briefly want to mention the funding because I get more questions about this than anything else. So this should make it really simple for you just so that you're aware of it. So Masa funding goes directly to the programs. You never have to deal with it. You don't handle any of the money. It gets just taken off of your bill. After you get accepted to your program, you then apply to Masa, and we would send that money to the programs. So the universal grants, like I said, are given to anyone who's doing a Masa program. You're eligible for this grant. The past 2 years, the amounts of the grants have either been $200 or $800, depending on the type of program. If it's an academic gap program where you're earning college credit, that was the $800 grant. All the other programs receive $200 grants. The scholarships, anyone who's doing a gap year program In addition to gap programs that are through the Jewish Studies program, so anyone who's interested in the Yeshiva or Seminary program know that need-based scholarships are available also for doing those programs. And those are for up to $3,500. And then there is just one example in the gap space, but I just want to mention it. Those are academic grants. So normally when you do college study abroad programs, they're higher level. So $1,250. The only program in the gap space which receives that grant is Israel XP at Bardland University, because basically you're doing your freshman year in Israel and then returning as a sophomore. No matter what program you are going to be going on with Masa, every single program is going to offer the following. You are going to be taking trips around Israel. Travel is a big piece of this year. The programs take it really seriously. It's something that's really important to what they do. So know that you're going to be going all over the country, meeting people from everywhere. In addition, you're going to do an ulpan. You do not need to know Hebrew to take to be on one of these programs. They are all English language, but no, you are going to learn some Hebrew and you can do it at whatever level you're comfortable with. Then there's the cultural immersion. These are not trips. They are not vacations. You are going to be living like a local. So these are full immersion in Israeli society, and it's like nothing you've experienced before. In addition, you are going to make a global network of friends. This is probably the best part of the year that everybody loves. You're going to have friends for life, and you're going to be able to gather to plan trips all over the world and meet them no matter where they are, and you'll appreciate that. Then there's housing, medical insurance. These are all included. Transportation for all the programs, no matter what you're doing on the ground, and then guidance and security. So Masa oversees the security in the country for all the programs. In addition, there's going to be great guidance in the form of amazing staff. There's a very low ratio of staff to student participation. So you can feel good about the level of support that you're going to get throughout the year. Choosing your gap year program is actually, maybe you already know this, but one of the tougher parts of the process. There are a lot of choices. It can be very confusing. So we like to break it down into different categories of programs. And so I'm going to guide you just a little bit now, and that's something we can talk about when we have the Q&A afterwards. So we break it down into the following categories, but I just want you to know that these are categories that are really out in the gap year world in general. So even if you weren't going to Israel, if you were going to go anywhere, these are the trends that are out there, and the programs that are in Israel are reflecting those trends, and they're offering world-class programs. First of all, there's the academic programs. Like I said, you can earn college credit for those. That's if you want a soft landing to college. There are career development internship programs. We have some that are really specific in the startup world, but then some of the other programs just offer really nice internship opportunities, and you should be aware of those. There are the community service volunteer-based programs. This tends to be the most popular trend in the international gap year world. People want to do community service and travel all over the world doing that kind of work, and we have those kind of programs that you can definitely, fill that need. There are the traditional programs, which I say they offer a little bit of everything. They're doing internships and academic and volunteer, but then they also are focusing on that travel and adventure, language and cultural immersion. You'll get a little bit of everything, and they're very popular. And then there are the special interest programs. Some of them can be very niche. You could be playing lacrosse and soccer, but then the youth movement organizations have their own gap years, and those are in this category. And then we have something called Mechina programs, and I just want you to be aware of those because most people are not aware of them. A Mechina is a program that Israelis do the year before they enter the army. It has nothing to do with the army. What you do are leadership programs, community development, traveling, and learning. So really, it sounds a lot like a gap year, and that's exactly what it's like. If you want to take a deep dive into Israeli culture, these are the programs for you. It's not right for everyone, but the people who do them have a really extraordinary experience. So if you think you'd like to be with Israelis and have that kind of experience, you should know about those programs. And finally, what I just want to finish with here is to just quickly let you see the names of some of our programs, because I think you know them already, whether you know people who've actually done the programs or you just have been hearing about them. Know that almost every single gap year program in Israel is a Masa program. There are just a couple that are not. So in the academic category, we have Aardvark's two programs, Core and Big Idea, Israel XP at Bardland University, Nativ and Young Judea Year Course. All of these, you're going to be earning college credit. Then career internships, these are the ones that are very focused on tech. If you were one of those people, you know it. And it's great to have this opportunity in the startup nation. Service volunteer programs. Some of these are also very immersed in Israeli culture, where you're going to be working directly with Israelis. So that's good to know as another alternative if you're interested in being in an Israeli community. And then all these special interest programs, a lot of them I'm sure you've heard of. So you can see these, they may be familiar to you. And so now I want to remind you again about the Gap Year Fair. That's it for the presentation, because I want us to have lots of time for Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I am just going to go back here, and I know that Gali is going to help me and tell me some of the questions that may come in. I'd love to hear from parents and from students the questions that you have, what you're interested in hearing about. I'm happy to talk about specific programs if that's something that interests you.
So Sheryl, one question I want to start with is, have we been hearing any feedback from those who took gap years in 2020? What was it like for them, and how are they adjusting maybe to campus, if you've been hearing from those recent alumni?
So it's interesting. I have not been hearing about their adjustment to campus, and I'd love to hear from some of the Hillel professionals who, are working with them directly. But we do know we got feedback about last year, and there was this combination because of COVID. COVID was definitely still a big player in the gap experience. Unfortunately, they had hoped that, things may be a little less restricted, but COVID just kept rearing its head, and there were lots of restrictions that would come up. But what people said overwhelmingly was that actually COVID became something really interesting to deal with. It bonded them as a group. They did not feel that their year was sort of minimized. They actually felt that they were given this incredible opportunity to have an experience across the globe when other people were being shut down and being so restricted. So their world in some ways felt much bigger. And so they did have a very full year. They didn't all feel as if it was compromised, and they were so glad that they took the year, because many of them said, is it going to be worth it for me to go to Israel if I can't have the same experience that someone who went on a gap year 2 years ago would have had? And every single person who participated said it was so worth it. And compared to their friends who stayed at home, their experience was a once in a lifetime best decision they ever made. So that experience, I can tell you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sheryl. We've had another question here about a parent who has a student who wasn't able to make it today, and just a question about what's going to be happening on November 14th. Do you want to give a little bit of details maybe about the plan for the day?
Sure. So it is a 2-hour event. The first hour is going to be filled with some content giving background on Gap Fair. We're going to hear on gap years. We're going to hear from 2 experts. Specifically, one is a high school counselor who is amazing. His name is Michael Courtney, and he is the director of college guidance at SAR Academy. He also used to be in admissions at NYU. So he's going to answer lots of questions about the process, how the gap year process works with the college application process, and any questions that you have worried about that. So that's going to be something he talks about. Then we have a gap year expert named Holly Bull, who runs a gap year choice organization. And so she is also going to talk about how to choose the programs, what she has seen over the years. She's been in the business for 30 years, some of the trends and some of the best choices for your child, for your son or daughter, or if it's the son or daughter who's there, helping them, help them choose what, if they want to do volunteering or they want to do interning, and how to make that choice. So, and then I'm also going to be there to help you with the Masa details. And then the second second hour is going to be devoted completely to meeting program organizers. So you are going to be encouraged to meet with as many as you want. Like I said, there's about 20 programs. So you can go over the course of the hour, you can go in and out of all of these breakout rooms where you'll have the opportunity to ask specific questions. They'll be doing presentations to the organizers. So they'll tell you about what is a day like for anyone who is on their program and what are the opportunities. So it's a bit of specific with the programs, and then also about the process and the choice of gap year.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sheryl. I also want to add that this presentation is being recorded and will be available on our page on the section of the FAIR website. So not to worry for this specific session as well. Keep the questions coming. We're getting some great questions. Got a very specific one about the Kivunim program, Sheryl. Wanted to hear more. I'll save it for you to go into, but just any more details you can provide about that.
About specifically Kivunim? So Kivunim is one of the only gap year programs that is not offered by Masa. I'm very familiar with Kivunim. I know many people who have their kids have gone on Kivunim. The reason it is not a program, a Masa program, because I just want to clarify, there's absolutely nothing wrong with their program or with Masa. The reason is that the guidelines for Masa require that gap year programs have to be in residency in Israel for a certain amount of time. Because so much traveling is done on Kivunim, they're not in Israel for enough time to qualify as a Masa program. So I can tell you, while it's not a Masa program, it is an amazing program. You travel to 6 to 8 communities throughout the world. It used to be, I can't list all of them, but it was India, Morocco, Prague, Spain, Greece. That's all that I can remember. So you learn and then you travel, go to those communities. I know someone who was on it last year, and because of COVID, they were not able to do the traveling that they normally do. They only went to 2 communities. I know Morocco was still one of them. So I don't have information on Kivunim, but if you're interested, you should definitely, look into it. It's definitely one of the costlier gap year programs for sure, and you should look into it. There isn't anything really that is like that is offered through Masa because, like I said, of the residency issues, but traditionally, both Aardvark and Young Judea Year course had a lot of add-on travel opportunities that were quite amazing. And so you could, for instance, go to Nepal and do some service work. And there were other locations, but they haven't done it because of COVID. If things are up and running, full steam next year, know that they will return to doing some of those travel add-ons, including Poland is usually an option. It's definitely part of the Young Judea program for sure. So traveling will be more included if we go back to things as normal next year. So you might want to look into those 2 programs as options.
Okay, we got some more questions for you, Sheryl. We have a question asking specifically for a modern Orthodox family. They're looking for not a full-time Jewish studies program. What options do we have that include traditional Jewish environments, but not specifically seminary or yeshiva setting?
One of my favorite questions, yay! So we actually have 4 programs that are made specifically for modern Orthodox students who do not want to be in a Beit Midrash all day long, and it's not for them. So I can tell you about all 4 of them, and then you can research them. 3 of them are actually offered by World B'nai Akiva. So if you're familiar with B'nai Akiva, you know where they come from, and maybe your son or daughter has been involved with B'nai Akiva. So they have 3 programs. One of them is called Kivun, not to be confused with Kivunim. And Kivun is actually so popular. It's a newer program. It's just been around for a few years. And this program sells out the past 2 years. Both years it has sold out. So I'm telling you, if you're interested in this program, you should look into it very early on because it is one of the programs that, you can't wait until the deadline necessarily and still get a spot in. What Kivun is, it's like one of those traditional programs that I mentioned where it's a little bit of everything. So you do traveling, interning, learning. It's a co-ed program. And you have the opportunity to choose interning and volunteering. So it's a little bit of everything. It's great. And they get kids from all over the world. It's English language, but it's not just for Americans. So it's really great program. Then Bnei Akiva also has these two other programs. One is called Mechina Olamit. I mentioned the Mechinot programs. Those are the ones that the Israelis are doing the year before they go in the army. This is a program that is based on a kibbutz, and it is also co-ed, and there will be traditional learning, but then it's going to be run like a mechina. So you're going to be with Israelis, and you're going to be doing some of that leadership training and community building. It's a great program, different feel completely than Kivun. And the final program that Bnei Akiva does, it's called Shalem. This is a newer program, and this is actually going to be specifically for people who would like to do national service. It corresponds with, in Israel, the Shnat Sherut, where people who don't go in the army, they volunteer instead and do all sorts of things all over the country. It's very intense volunteering, so this fits into that category of volunteer community service, those programs where they show people going across the world to work with kids, working in hospitals and schools, and you really want to do some amazing chesed. That's going to be a program that you might want to look into. And then the final program that's appropriate for modern Orthodox kids is Israel XP at Bardland University. Really popular program, over 100 kids who are on this, like 120 kids, been around for a long time. It is an academic-based program though, so it's that soft landing to college. You're going to be earning college credit. Usually most kids can start as sophomores when they do get to a college campus, depending on the school that you go to. So I don't want to guarantee that. It does combine fun programs with traveling and Shabbat experiences, but you're going to be leaving right off the Bardland campus. They have their own dorm, and it's a great program too. So those are the 4 programs.
Thanks for that answer, Sheryl. We have a quick question which I can answer, which is about birthright eligibility. Yes, doing a Masa program does make you ineligible for birthright. So if you're very keen on a birthright experience, I know we do have some fellows in some cases who do birthright at the beginning of the summer to check off that box. But otherwise, doing a Masa program does make you ineligible for birthright. We have another question coming in. What's the best way to find the right fit for a senior in high school, Sheryl?
The best way. Okay, well, I think the best way is to reach out and have conversations with experts. So I would say 1, if you would like to, and I'm actually, you know what, right now that's going to remind me to do this. I am going to right now put my Calendly link into the chat. Okay, I've just done that. So 1 is you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to make meetings with the student by themselves or students with parents and guardians. It's up to you. And we start talking about your interests and how you would like to spend the day. So 1 is feel free to reach out to me and have that conversation. In addition, you can reach out to the program organizers if you have heard about certain programs or you just have recognized some of the names. You can go onto their websites, and they also, say if you'd like to have a conversation or find out more, they usually have an email or just a link, and you can just request to have a conversation with them. And they go over really specifically how you spend the day and everything like that. But in terms of just how someone might want to start making that decision, 1 is if you know people who've done the programs, I would talk to them. And I would take it with a bit of a grain of salt because everybody likes to do different things. But I would also start really thinking about those categories and be very honest with yourself and ask yourself, in terms of volunteering, do you really want to be volunteering for 5 hours a day? It sounds like it's a nice thing to do, but is that really how you want to spend your day? So really think about what you want to do. And if you want to develop your career and have an internship, and it's important to you, then keep it on the plate for sure. The other thing to think about is where you want to be located. Most of the programs are in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Some are exclusively in Jerusalem. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's really important because if you want to be in a city and you know it, then, that's important. And the other is in terms of like religious observance or Jewish background, a lot of them have really strong personalities. Some of these programs are sponsored by youth movement organizations or other Jewish organizations. And so ideologically, they're going to be coming from a particular place. Most of them are pluralistic, but for instance, Habonim, the youth movement, has a program. Nativ is the conservative movement's program. Then Maccabi World Union, they have their programs. So I think if you know about those organizations, they might help you steer away or towards the program. So they're going to have a bit of a personality. So that's another way also to help you make that decision.
Excellent. Follow up to the Birthright question. Yes, you are absolutely eligible for Masa if you have done Birthright. I would say it's even encouraged. Previous Israel experience is very welcome. And absolutely, if you've done Birthright, please do Masa. And we work very closely with Birthright to funnel people towards our programs. Sheryl, though, we have a question for you, a very common theme. What's the price range for these programs? What are out-of-pocket costs? Like, is it everything's a flat rate? What are the ranges? Give us a scoop.
Okay, well, every program is different. So there is no flat rate. The range of prices goes anywhere from $10,000 up to $33,000, and it really depends on what the program's doing. The least expensive programs are the volunteer programs, as you can imagine, because basically you're working. And so you don't have a lot of those bells and whistles, and you're not doing other things that some of the other programs offer. So those are the lower end, $10,000. The most expensive program we offer is Chavruta at Shalom Hartman Institute. That's the one that's just around $33,000. The programs, pretty much everything is included though, and except for the airfare to Israel. The other programs, for instance, Aardvark in Israel, and your course from Young Judea, those are our two most popular programs. They have the largest participation. They are both around 200, like shy of 200 participants, so around 180, something like that. Those programs tend to be around $26,000, as is Nativ. And so that's where those programs that offer a little bit of everything and probably have the most, like the widest range of experiences that you might want to be on. They're going to be around $26,000.
We're now having a question coming in specifically about our tech and startup type programs that we have. What do you recommend in terms of time frame for getting your application in? Is it very competitive? And does it have to be directly in between college and high school, or could it be between freshman and sophomore years, for example?
Right. So these programs are actually age eligible. So it is fine. You can still do them if you have done your freshman year in college. So we really have 3 tech programs. That's it. So that makes it really easy to explore them. In terms of being competitive, I think, in terms of getting into them, the Aardvark Big Idea is the one that's very academically based. And so that you're going to be required to take courses. And so that one, you're going to, I don't know, you don't have to worry so much about a GPA, but you do have to be aware of if you're going to want to be like working at a certain level. And they'll be very clear with you. You're going to actually start with a computer science course before you even get onto, which is why you get college credit for that one, before you get put into your specific interning experience. And the people in that program are operating at pretty high level. The other 2 programs, one of them is your course has a tech track. So you're still doing Young Judea's year course with this track. And so that one is going to be a little more general. And so you don't have to worry about that so much in terms of being competitive. And then the final one is one that's through Maccabi, and it's Israel Startup Experience. That one is really, it's open. It tends to be one that non-Americans go on more so. All the Maccabi programs are very popular in Latin America, but also they're getting participants from South Africa, Australia, from all over the world. And so That one is interesting because you'll be put in a global situation and maybe a little bit outside your comfort zone that way. But in terms of competitive, I don't know if it's just in terms of keeping up with the work, but they place you in really specific places based on your needs, your background, especially the Maccabi one. You'll be put in a place where you'll feel really comfortable. And in terms of getting into it, they're very open to all different kinds of backgrounds. So they're very different, those three programs. So if you're interested in them, you should talk to all three programs and see which one really fits.
Thanks, Sheryl. We've had another question about options in terms of maybe mixing and matching. Are like students allowed to do like a semester of an internship and then pivot for another semester of doing the more wholesome, balanced array menu of options for the second semester, or vice versa?
Yeah. Well, Aardvark is the most flexible that way. That's why Aardvark is really one of our most popular programs, because it's so flexible and it lets you do a lot of different things. So for sure, that is one of the programs where you can decide to do both interning, or you could do volunteering. So, or you can do the academic track for like one session and decide that you want to switch. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility with that program. Some of the other programs are a little more, it's like even your course, you never have to keep doing something if you don't like it, just so you know. And so even like with your course, yes, you can choose to do something different and have different experiences. There are 2 opportunities throughout the year where they switch, where you could be doing a volunteering thing, but then decide to do something different. They're like, 2-month experiences. So there definitely are opportunities in those bigger programs. Some of the other ones that are more thematic, I don't know that there's as much flexibility, but I can say that if you are in a volunteer or career opportunity in the program and in any of the programs and you don't like them, you absolutely can find a different one and switch.
We're getting a little niche right now. Do we have any programs for students interested in the arts?
I'm keeping track of how many people ask that, because we do not have a program if you are interested in the arts. It's something that we're looking into because we do get the question. My question is, then I would like to see, I want you to text back. When you say the arts, are you talking about performing arts? Are you talking about fine arts? Because we're keeping track of it because we want to find out like what people are really interested in, because we're thinking of trying to do something. But as of now, we don't. The one thing I can tell you though, because I have worked with some students who have asked this before, with Aardvark specifically, also with your course too though, because Aardvark is excellent at placing people in internships that are really challenging, exciting, and different. So, I'm taking, fine art, cartooning, computer graphics, animation. Okay. Fine arts and fashion. Okay. So what I would say is that the internship opportunities, especially with Aardvark, but also with some others like your course, and maybe Maccabi Gap Year is also going to be having some really good opportunities with internships. Oh, and also Kivun, you can do internships with Kivun. So they will give you opportunities where you can explore talents in that way, but you would not have, it wouldn't be like the whole experience that you're going on. It's not like you could do, wouldn't that be wonderful if you could really like spend your time like with the tech track, if you could have something that was arts track. No, there isn't anything like that now, but it is something you could explore through internships for sure.
Great question. We get it all the time. So thanks for addressing that, Sheryl. We've had another question about physicality, I think is a good way to phrase it, on the trip during your experiences there. And the travel around Israel. How much hiking is there, activeness? Would someone maybe perhaps need like a doctor's note to sign off, or maybe some of these strenuous things for certain conditions?
It's whatever level you're comfortable at. If you're not comfortable, there's going to be hikes for sure. There's going to be more outdoorsy trips, but also some of them are not. so outdoorsy. And I can tell you that there are people who are participating in these programs who have all sorts of challenges. Uh, and they come to the program with their limitations. The programs are aware of it and accommodate them. As long as it's something that you are very upfront with the program about beforehand, there's really no problem with that. If you know that you're not going to be able to participate in certain things, just let them know, and they'll be aware of it. And very often there are alternative things that you can do, but there is absolutely no reason not to consider or look into a program. If you feel you have some kind of limitation, just be honest about it and talk to the programs. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the fact that you're not the first person to ask the question, that they have been accommodating people for years.
Okay, thanks, Sheryl. I know we're officially at our end time. I know I at least have one more question. We're available for a few minutes after. So if you have any more questions, please write them in the chat right now. And to remind you that the next session, I believe, starts at 6 p.m. for Jewish Greek life on campus at the fair. This question this question is about funding ranges for yeshiva and seminary programs. Sheryl, what does that look like?
So the yeshiva and seminary programs are not eligible for the universal grant. That's the one that is $200 or $800. So what you are still eligible for, though, are the need-based scholarships. And that is the past 2 years. Those programs have been eligible for the need-based scholarships of $3,500, and we're hoping that it's going to continue that way. There's no reason why we don't think that it will, but so that is your eligibility for that. But it's true, those programs do not get the universal grant.
We've had another question come in about timing. How far in advance do you need to sign up? What do you recommend? When's it too late? When's too early? Give us a scoop, Sheryl.
Okay, it's not too early because we're already in October, so you can reach out to any of these programs now. Go ahead and do it. Now, in terms of being late, so the program, some of them have deadlines, and I would say that it is important to watch the deadlines. Sometimes there's a funding issue. So some of the programs actually have discounts, like Gear Course is famous for it. They offer discounts if you apply by a certain time. So those deadlines are really important. They are not flexible in terms of giving you those discounts after. But there definitely is a feel of rolling admission, if you know that term from college and university. Rolling admission meaning that you can apply anytime. And you can actually apply up until the summer. We actually have some people who, like, they're waiting to hear from college, right? They get their final acceptances. It's April. They didn't get into the school they want. They're not that excited about it. Or they do get into the school that was their dream school, and now they feel like relaxed and it's okay. I got in my dream school. Now I want to take a gap year. So there's a lot of kids who wait to hear from the universities before they make these decisions. And absolutely, you can apply later in the year. There's no reason you can't. Here are the few things you need to know. For instance, Aardvark will guarantee housing and acceptance for people who apply up to June 1st. After June 1st, they start creating a wait list. And if they can accommodate people, they will. So this year they had about 15 kids who were put on a wait list who came in after June 1st, and they weren't able to accommodate them because they were never able to find the housing and the madrichim to oversee the extra numbers. That's just to give you one example of what Aardvark does. In addition, I mentioned Kivun sells out. And so if you're interested in that program, you should just apply early. The other program that has been selling out is Chevruta at Shalom Hartman. And if you are interested in that, and that one has a competitive application process, I would start right away. And I would really reach out to them. Something else to know is that Israel XP, the women's campus, is usually filled by March, latest April. So if you're interested in Israel XP and you're a woman, I would say apply. So what I want to say is that it's not so much that it's like college where you have to apply by a certain date in order to get in. The issue is if the programs run out of room, and they are becoming more and more popular. So more and more of the programs are definitely filling up. So it's just something to keep in mind.
So what I'm hearing now is apply as early as possible and get on in there. So Thank you so
Exactly.
much to Sheryl for that amazing presentation. Thank you to our hosts and amazing partners at Hillel International. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. I put some important information in the chat. Our time is unfortunately coming to an end, but just wanted to thank you all for joining. Be in touch with any questions, and can't wait to get yourselves and your children to Israel. So thank you all so much. And that is the end of today's webinar and session.
Thank you. Bye.